Good evening. I'd like to call to order the study session of the North Augusta City Council for Monday, March the 28th, 2022. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our City Administrator, Mr. Jim Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have three items before us today. The first being the City Council meeting agenda, the second being our department details from our directors and senior managers, and lastly, the mayor's matters, which I'll turn back over to Mayor Williams for. So just as an administrative note for our council members, we do not have a directed study session item for today. Next week is the Masters, so we're going to have a fairly thinly attended meeting, and it's my intention to put in front of the council at the next study session discussion about the public safety headquarters design and site plan review in order for us to be able to move forward on a bid proposal sometime this summer. So what we'll really have for tonight is the agenda review and department details, at least from the staff perspective. So with that, we'll go into item number 1 under the city council meeting. And I'll skip right to item 5 on that regular council meeting agenda, which the first one will be under personnel is the retirement of Tim Thornton for his recognition of service to the city of North Augusta. And as you all know, Tim is a long-serving officer in the department, and he is finishing out his career as the administrative lieutenant here in the city of North Augusta. And part of his duties went beyond just the administrative portions of the job. He was also our public information officer for the department, as well as our hostage negotiator or negotiator for the SWAT team. So Tim wore a lot of hats, and obviously a big hit to the city as he departs service here. So that's the first item we have for the council for next week. Moving on to item 6 under planning and development, we're going to have resolution number 2022-16, accepting a deed of dedication for the streets, sanitary sewer, stormwater collection, and fire suppression systems and associated easements and rights-of-way, along with a maintenance guarantee and letter of credit for Sweetwater townhomes. And so that's an attachment in your packet. And to remind the council members that this is a standard practice that we have within the city as far as dealing with developments, and this allows us to put money essentially into escrow as far as a guarantee goes for a 2-year cycle for those items that are listed there in the resolution. So essentially, those things will be deeded over to the city for long-term maintenance, but that money that's associated with that guarantee is that if something goes wrong in that first 2 years, either the developer has the option of just fixing it out of hand, or the city can use those dollars for that purpose. So I'll pause for any questions on this one.
Just educate me. What happens after 2 years? If nothing happens, it's just we give it back, or
The money goes back to the developer.
Okay. Thank you.
So I think the last one that I put before the council was we did a maintenance guarantee for the stadium parking deck. I know we've done others as well, but that's an example of a guarantee that was put forth.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll move to item number 7 under public safety. Resolution number 2022-17, the resolution authorizing funding for equipment additions for public safety vehicles. And that's attachment number 7, which I'd refer to you at this time.
Way in the back.
A lot of maintenance guarantee.
Way in the back.
Yeah, it's a lot of maintenance guarantee. And so the resolution that you have before you essentially allows the city administrator to move forward on a contract purchase for rifle rack attachments inside the vehicles themselves.
Jim.
So one of the, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Mr. President.
I was just going to ask, I was reading through it and I saw, how many vehicles is this going in? I mean, 30,000 seems high for a rifle rack to me. I mean, I'm not in the business, chief, but, is every squad car, or how many cars and SUVs will be outfitted with these?
How about now? Can you hear me now? Sorry. Every vehicle that belongs to a public safety officer, supervisor, so there's about 66 of those. that will be outfitted with rifle racks. Yes, sir.
I assume that price does include installation as well?
Most of the installation is something that obviously we had to look at very carefully, and so we're going to do it in-house. So
Okay.
it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Can you kind of educate us on exactly what we currently have and what this is going to allow
Certainly, if-
the officers to do?
I'll let Chief Thomas take over if I start getting in the deep water. But what we learned through our engagement, where we had our police officer involved shooting in the downtown corridor. Ultimately, the officer involved had to exit his vehicle under fire, move to the back of the Chevy Tahoe, open up the back of the Chevy Tahoe, get into a locked compartment for him to get his long gun out in order to be able to have an effective rate of fire and return with the suspect. And those seconds matter. And so ultimately, as one of the major takeaways from that engagement was that if you're familiar with the old kind of 1970s and 80s police cars, they used to have the shotgun rack, inside the vehicle itself, so that if something arose, they could quickly get their hands on that apparatus or firearm and move into a hostile fire zone. And so likewise, what's happened now is these long guns, these AR-15 type weapons, are in a secured box in the back of the vehicle. So what's important for us is, number one, that the officer can more quickly get their hands on the weapon that they need, and number two is to make sure that that weapon is in some kind of lockable configuration. So we don't want to just do a straight, and that's part of the price point there, Councilman, and we've had multiple bids on this, but you have to have a system that allows for you to do both, to access it and also have it lockable, so that only the officer involved gets it and not somebody just sticking their hand in a police car and grabbing a long gun. So ultimately what I had asked Chief to do after we had the incident on Georgia Avenue is to do a review of, hey, what could the city have done administratively or from a budgetary perspective to better prepare our officers, in that kind of situation in the future. And Councilman Presnell, to your point about the number of vehicles involved, some of the responding officers that actually were involved in that shootout were in unmarked cars that were detectives or investigators, not in marked patrol units, and that were also involved in that incident. So we wanted to go for the greatest swath, if you will, of available certified law enforcement officers in that kind of situation, because they're all going to respond in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I was, like Chief said, about 60 cars. Didn't realize we had that many, but so you break the numbers down, that's about $500 a unit. So hopefully it's not too hard to install then.
Very good. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on that topic? Okay. We'll move to item number 8, which is the last item on our proposed agenda, and that's a resolution number 2022-18, authorizing the City of North Augusta to enter into a professional engineering services contract with AECom to perform design services for various water and wastewater utility capital improvement projects. So this was a proposal that we put out for bid, and we had multiple agencies bid on this contract, and really this is to help advise our Public Services Department with James Sutton and his team to be able to look at design work for various projects. So AECom would not necessarily be the contractor actually conducting the work, but to do the analysis required for what would be required for a contractor to enter into services with the city. So Rachel Moody and James Sutton and then some other folks sat as part of a review panel and looked at, I think, 3 separate proposals, and AECom had the best proposal this time.
And I don't see it in here, at least I'm missing it. Do we have a normal time that we have a contract for that?
I think it's a 3-year contract.
It is 3 years, okay.
I'll defer to Rachel or James if they have anything else they want to add since they were part of the board selection.
Is this as needed service? I mean, I noticed there's no number amount with it that I could see, but is it just like an as needed, like if you got a project, you call them in? Okay.
I think it's basically an at-will type thing that it remains in effect until council decides to send it back out again or do something with it. So the council can terminate it whenever they deem it appropriate to do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions on our agenda items for next week? And Rachel Moody will be running next week's city council meeting in my absence, so I appreciate her stepping in and handling the business. So I will go ahead and turn this over to department details, and so our first director will be Cammie Hayes for finance.
I just have some date reminders for our citizens. On April 4th, we have a Cycle 1 due date, and April 6th and 7th is a disconnect for our Cycle 2. Our business license due date is coming up in April. They're due on April 30th to avoid penalty. And then city taxes, just a reminder, those are due on May 1st without penalty. Any questions?
Next up, James Sutton for public services.
Good evening. First up is the Southwest Interceptor Pipe Rehabilitation Program. We discussed a while back, and y'all have approved some funding out of the ARPA funds for us to be able to perform some rehabilitation work on the manholes in the pipe system. In the interim, we had submitted specs out to obtain bids for Phase 1, as we tagged it, for the pipe system that's in pretty poor shape, more so than the rest along River Oaks. Contractor arrived in town today and started initially inspecting the 1,800 feet. His bid come in at $162,000 for that project, which kind of puts us in line for the remaining 22,000 feet. So we're more than comfortable with the number we got from that bid there. Moving on, most of y'all probably familiar with the sycamore tree down at the amphitheater. We've got some dead wood that's in the top that the contractor's going to come in this week and trim out, safety purposes. So you'll see some activity going on with the contractor to perform that work. An update on the material recovery facility fire. The insurance company has arrived at a financial number and has sent it to Human Resources and our Loss Control Division. The number is about $2.5 million for the structure and the equipment replacement and repairs. And Rachel and I and other staff will be meeting Thursday to administratively talk about moving forward to pave a path forward to get everything going back to where it was once. So surely be better. Any questions?
Yeah. Thank you, James.
Next, we'll have Chief Thomas with Public Safety.
As you see, we continue to get updates on Station 1, the fire station. The roofing was delivered last week. Obviously, there's a big need for that, and the remaining installation should be here by the last of March. So that being said, obviously there's some work to be done, but it looks like it's taking shape pretty well, and looks like we're making some movement there, which is great for us. Second part of our wellness checks, which is a health check, is actually done every year annually to all our PSOs and firefighters by Aiken Regional. So we get fit for duty, making sure that all the health issues are taken care of. So glad to get that out of the way for this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And Carl will cover down for Parks, Recreation, and Tourism.
Okay, our sports tourism season continued this past weekend with a regional basketball tournament. We had 115 teams in from South Carolina, Georgia, and North Carolina. All went well with that. Also this past weekend, our spring youth sports season for kids and families in our service area began. We have over 1,500 kids participate in our programs this season. That's a 15% gain from last year. And also, we were proud to host our T-Rex Friends, our special needs baseball program. They had a very good attendance this past week, so with 50 or so participants with that. So excited to see them in the park. Staff continues to work on long-range projects, including the boat dock and tourism website. And also our tourism staff participated in a newly formed group consisting of Aiken County, cities of Aiken and North Augusta, and also Lower Savannah Council of Governments. Since the tourism folks from all those agencies plan to meet quarterly or so and kind of go over what everybody else is doing and hopefully bounce ideas off each other.
Thank you, Carl.
Carl's not going to say it here in this forum, but I'll do it for him, which is I'd like to thank Carl and Rick and the leadership of PRT and all the folks that were involved with welcoming our lady golfers here to the Augusta National that are staying here in North Augusta. And so a lot of work went into making a welcome package and coordinating with our businesses to make sure that we're going to take good care of these folks. And I try not to steal the mayor's thunder. I suspect he's going to talk about it in the mayor's matters. But there is definitely a governmental component of that. And so Carl and his team were certainly the heavy lift on that. So thanks to you and your team, Carl.
No, certainly appreciate it. Glad to do it.
Best looking water bottles in the whole CSRA.
That's right. They're pretty.
I'll turn next to Tom Zeser for Engineering and Public Works.
So speaking of golf, I just wanted to mention the golf traffic signage being installed from I-20 along the Martintown Road corridor through downtown. It's not really a new thing, but it's we have not installed those signs for the past 2 years, but the National has again asked us to resume that signage for this year. It's just an effort to try to encourage traffic to route through North Augusta and to the National via the Calhoun Expressway, just to disperse that morning traffic. So just in case you haven't seen it before or get any questions about it, that's all it is. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. And last but not least, J.D. McCulley for HR.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to give my plug for northaugusta.net, soon to be northaugusta.gov, but /jobs. For all of our job posting, we post them weekly. We had a successful job fair last week. We went out and saw James and his crew at operations facility. I just want to let everyone know we have a lot of diverse jobs that are out there, entry level primarily, and if folks are interested, we offer training in each one of these positions. So if it's something that interests you, please apply at northaugusta.net /jobs, and that's it.
Thank you, JD.
And since Ricky's a one-man show tonight with the IT department, I wanted to highlight that next Monday evening is when we're going to start doing the cutover to .gov emails. So ultimately, as we discussed in a previous study session, that's going to be seamless from the perspective of anybody can send an email to a .net account, and it'll forward to the right .gov account, and the response will be from a .gov. So we're going to do that Monday night. April 4th will be the start of that process of rolling out those changes and addresses. So if you have some immediate problem that involves email on Tuesday morning, please let us know immediately, and we'll work on it. Mr. Mayor, I think that concludes the staff portion of the presentations this evening, and I'll turn it back to you for mayor's matters.
Okay. I just got about two things, but anybody has anything for good Florida? Anything you want to share? You do? Go ahead. Yeah, you can. You're up here on the dais.
Yeah, based upon some of the conversation tonight, I was thinking this may be a good time just to mention this. We don't need a determination right now, but over the years, there's been discussions about changing our ordinance to not have a council meeting Masters Week. And I know we've had some problems over the years at times. In fact, I do think on one occasion, we did not have a quorum, but we still had to, those of us that were here had to come and declare there wasn't a quorum. The way our ordinance is written, well, the state law requires every city to have one council meeting a month. Our ordinance provides for two, and it provides that in the event that one of those meetings falls on a holiday, that the meeting is canceled. We could add to that ordinance a provision. We'd have to describe what Masters Monday is, but if council wanted to do that, and we've only got a year to work on it in case you make a decision to do it, but we could change the ordinance and provide it where the meeting in April, if it fell on Masters Week, would be canceled, and we wouldn't have to be concerned about a quorum or anything.
So we can make that a national holiday just for us.
Well, yeah, pretty much, yeah. We can describe it in a manner that we can do that. But since we talked about it, I thought I'd just throw that out, and if you decide, you can let me know and I can propose something. Well, like I say, it's always the lowest attended, whether it be by council members or public or whatever, so. But, you know,
Much lower than that.
yeah, if you want me to do that, I'll be glad to propose something.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate it, Kelly. Just a couple things, just want to remind everybody, April 23rd is going to be our first quarterly community trash bash. This is going to be in partnership with the Hamburg-Carrsville African American Heritage District. So we will be meeting at 9 o'clock at the Society Building in Carrsville for trash pickup in the Carrsville area, and then the First Providence Foundation will be doing a presentation to discuss the museum and some initiatives they are doing to promote that historic district that previous council had passed. And then National Day of Prayer is May the 5th this year, and we'll be having the Mayor's Prayer event at the Wesley Center at Grace United Methodist Church. It'll be light breakfast starting at 7:30, and visitation and social, and then the program actually starting at 8 o'clock. So we're doing a number of things different this year, so it's going to be a pretty exciting program. I just want to let everybody know about that. And then the last thing, I just want to thank council, and you already jumped ahead of me, thanking Carl and the tourism, your crew, as well as Kevin in our GIS department, Sharon, the folks who helped put together. We had an opportunity to greet when the women amateur golfers came into town yesterday. And I tell you, it was very positive, them getting off the bus or out of their car, and to have us there welcoming them. Then I think it made a big difference. And Jen was there again this morning, made a big difference with a big group that came in. So we are trying to add value to that, them being in this area this week. And we'll be having an event on Tuesday with a trolley run in the downtown. But anyway, I just want to thank all y'all for your assistance yesterday on Sunday, and administration and everybody that contributed to that. Carl, your group. It was very positive, and I think something we can build on going forward. So with that, I'm done unless anything else. You good? All right, thank you all. We stand adjourned.